Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching World Today. Before we begin, here are today's top 10 stories. US President Donald Trump backed down on threats to seize Greenland by force, announcing a vague deal aimed at ensuring security of the Arctic territory. He also lifted the promise of sanctions against European nations that spoke out against the threats to Denmark. Saudi Arabia and 8 Muslim-majority countries have agreed to join US President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. Riyadh announced the shared decision, saying they supported the peace efforts on the Gaza conflict. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has warned world leaders against selectively applying international law. He cautioned that doing so risks undermining global order as questions swirl over Trump's proposed Board of Peace. Damage to key infrastructure and access restrictions have disrupted most of Gaza City's water supply. This is due to difficulties repairing the Makarot water supply line, which runs from Israel into Gaza. The European Central Bank president says the world economy is facing new risks, despite some forecasts for global economic performance being stronger than expected. Geopolitics, artificial intelligence and climate change pose significant threats to the global economy. Meanwhile, the European Central Bank will keep its interest rate at a reasonable level. It will remain vigilant and ensure that Eurozone monetary policy can address risk. Police in south-central Chile have arrested a man on suspicion of starting one of the recent wildfires. The suspect used a liquid accelerant to start fires in a wheat field. A 45-year-old man was sentenced to life imprisonment for fatally shooting former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Residents were divided on the sentence, with some calling it lenient while others called for support for the man. The national contingent began its campaign at the ASEAN Para Games Thailand on a positive note by bagging 10 gold medals on the first full day of competition. They were contributed by athletes in paracycling, long jump, javelin throw and para 10-pin bowling. Cristiano Ronaldo and Abdul Rahman Gharib were on target to help Al Nassr secure a win over lowly Damak in the Saudi Pro League. The win makes 2 in a row for Al Nassr after a string of 3 losses saw them slip down the table. And that's today's top news in a quick snapshot. Up next, the complete World Today Bulletin. Stay tuned.
Dunia digital penuh dengan kandungan ganas, eksploitasi kanak-kanak dan buli cyber berleluasa di luar kawalan. Akta Keselamatan dalam Talian 2025 atau AMSA dikuat kuasa untuk melindungi rakyat. Pengguna boleh bertindak atas kandungan yang berisiko. Setiap laporan yang dibuat, platform digital wajib bertindak pantas terhadap penyalahgunaan digital. Dengan AMSA, internet kini lebih selamat untuk kanak-kanak dan keluarga kita.
Welcome back. US President Donald Trump said he had reached a framework of a deal that satisfies him on Greenland as he backed down on threats to seize the island by force and on imposing tariffs against European allies. Trump made the startling turnaround after talks with NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte. Trump said the framework is for a long-term deal, but he was conspicuously silent on whether it would mean US control over the Arctic island.
It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else. It's a great deal for everybody.
Trump said he would therefore scrap tariff of up to 25% that he had vowed days ago to slap on Denmark, as well as close European allies that have sent troops to Greenland in solidarity. Mark Rutte, meanwhile, said he had not discussed the key issue of Danish sovereignty over Greenland in his meeting with Trump. However, NATO spokesperson Alison Hart said Denmark, Greenland and the US will negotiate on ensuring that Russia and China never gain a foothold in Greenland, a key stated concern of Trump. Saudi Arabia and 8 Muslim-majority countries, including Gaza mediators, Qatar and Turkey, have agreed to join US President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. Riyadh announced the shared decision of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, Indonesia, Pakistan and the United Arab Emirates to join the body, saying they supported the peace efforts on the Gaza conflict. Kuwait's foreign ministry later announced that the country had also accepted the invitation. Invites were sent to dozens of world leaders with a request for $1 billion for a permanent seat on the board. Although originally meant to oversee Gaza's rebuilding, the board's charter does not seem to limit its role to the Strip. France has indicated it will not join the board, but Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu has accepted an invite. However, he has objected to the inclusion of Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan and Qatari diplomat Ali Al-Tawadi on a Gaza executive board operating under the body. On a related note, Trump claimed that Russian President Vladimir Putin has agreed to take part in the Trump-led initiative Board of Peace, despite the Kremlin previously saying it was still reviewing the invitation. The president also said many world leaders had accepted invitations to join the group, whose role has yet to be clearly defined. Responding to criticism that he was extending invitations to non-democratic figures, Trump acknowledged that some of those individuals were controversial. In Moscow, Putin said he had instructed Russia's foreign ministry to study the proposal before any decision is made. Putin also stressed that Russia is capable of paying the $1 billion requested for a permanent seat on the board using Russian assets that were previously frozen under the US administration. Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has warned world leaders against selectively applying international law, cautioning that doing so risks undermining global order as questions swirl over Trump's proposed Board of Peace. Guterres said the UN Charter remains the foundation of international relations and warned of the dangers when leaders run roughshod over international law, picking and choosing which rules to follow. He said such behavior sets a perilous precedent and erodes shared values and institutions. UN Deputy Spokesperson Farhan Haq said the Secretary-General remained focused on strengthening the organization's effectiveness and its core mission of peace. Asked whether the Board of Peace posed a challenge to the UN, Haq said it is too early to assess the initiative.
There have been any number of organizations, regional organizations, defense alliances, and others that have coexisted with the UN over the 80 years that the UN's been in existence. It's too early to tell what the Board of Peace will look like. One thing we are aware of is, of course, that the Security Council has endorsed the Board of Peace strictly for the work on Gaza. And, of course, we continue to abide by that resolution.
The United Nations said damage to key infrastructure and access restrictions have disrupted most of Gaza City's water supply, while winter conditions continue to pose risk to civilians. UN Deputy Spokesperson Farhan Haq said approximately 70% of Gaza City's total water production is currently disrupted. This is due to difficulties repairing the Mekorot water supply line, which runs from Israel into Gaza. He said a section of steel pipe required for repairs is not available in Gaza and is restricted from entry as a dual-use item. Haq added a request by 8 partners to repair the Safar well, another important water source for the city, was denied by Israeli authorities. 8 partners are seeking alternative water sources and increasing water trucking to maintain access to safe water.
As Gaza remains in the grip of winter, another hypothermia-related child death was reported by the Gaza Ministry of Health yesterday. This brings the total number of reported deaths linked to cold weather this season to 9. Once again, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs calls for urgent solutions, including allowing the entry of batteries, solar panels, and other energy sources that are needed to set up communal heating spaces.
An Israeli airstrike killed an AFP freelancer and 2 other journalists in Gaza. Hamas called the strike a dangerous escalation of the flagrant violations of the ceasefire agreement. Gaza Civil Defense Agency said 3 journalists were killed in an Israeli airstrike in the Al-Zahra area southwest of Gaza City, naming the dead as Mohammed Salah Kashta, Abdul Rauf Sha'an and Anas Dghaim. AFP said it is mourning the loss of Sha'an, who had contributed regularly to AFP as a photo and video journalist. AFP also demands a full and transparent investigation into his death. According to an eyewitness, the journalists were using a drone to take images of aid distribution by the Egyptian Relief Committee when a strike targeted a vehicle accompanying them. The Egyptian aid group confirmed one of its vehicles was targeted by Israel in a strike that killed 3 people. Media watchdog Reporters Without Borders expressed deep anger at the incident. It said the isolated strike on journalists who were identifiable by their reporting equipment could indicate targeting and constitute a war crime. The Israeli military said it struck 4 crossings along the Syria-Lebanon border after earlier launching fresh strikes on Hezbollah in Lebanon. The strike on the crossings came after Israel launched new strikes on what it said were Hezbollah targets in South Lebanon. This is after earlier raids that killed 2 people in the latest violence despite a year-old ceasefire with the group. The state-run national news agency said Israeli warplanes launched raids on buildings in several South Lebanon towns, including Januari and Kafur. According to Lebanon's health ministry, 19 people were wounded in the strike in Kunarit, 5 of whom were taken to hospital. A Lebanese army statement decried the Israeli targeting of civilian buildings and homes in a blatant violation of Lebanon's sovereignty and the ceasefire deal. It also said such attacks hindered the army's efforts to complete the disarmament plan. More than 350 people have been killed by Israeli fire in Lebanon since the ceasefire. Still ahead, several people missing after landslide in New Zealand.
Bersihkan penapis penghawa dingin dan tetapkan 24 darjah Celsius untuk lebih jimat.
European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde says the world economy is facing new risks despite some forecasts for global economic performance, especially in the Eurozone, being stronger than expected. Lagarde said that geopolitics, artificial intelligence and climate change all pose significant risks to the global economy.
I would say threat number 1 is the geopolitical fragmentation. Is the undermined confidence that people have in the economy. The second challenge is the speed at which digitalization, particularly propelled by artificial intelligence, is transforming our economies in multiple dimensions and pretty much all sectors.
She also emphasized the ongoing threat of climate change, which requires financing the transition to reduce its impact. On another note, the European Central Bank will keep its interest rate at a reasonable level and remain vigilant to risks amid the global interest rate cut cycle. Lagarde said the central bank will maintain current interest rates and ensure that Eurozone monetary policy can address risks.
I have said, and I would repeat happily, that we are currently in a good position. We have significantly reduced our rates over the last 2 years. We are holding, and have been holding for a moment now, at 2%, and we think that we are in a good position. And we have to be attentive to risk to the downside and risk to the upside as well, in order to have a monetary policy that responds with agility and a focus on the 2% medium term.
The President made the remarks at the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum 2026, gathering 3,000 leaders and experts worldwide to discuss pressing global challenges. Several people are missing after a landslide triggered by heavy rain struck a camping site at the base of Mount Managanui on the North Island of New Zealand. The slip hit camper vans, cars, tents and a toilet as well as a shower block. New Zealand Police Minister Mark Mitchell said emergency workers are searching the entire landslide area for survivors.
We are still in response mode, and that includes the tragedy that has unfolded behind us in the last few hours.
Meanwhile, Police District Commander Assistant Commissioner Tim Anderson said he could not say how many people are missing, but it is still possible to find someone alive.
Look, again, I can't be drawn on numbers because it is possible we could find someone alive, so I can't be drawn on numbers other than say it's single figures.
New Zealand forecaster Met Service has lifted all the weather warnings in the North Island as a tropical low moves east. Pakistani firefighters retrieved the bodies of up to 25 people from the debris of a shopping mall fire in Karachi, taking death toll to around 60. Several people are still missing and are feared dead, meaning the death toll could rise further.
हमें 20 से 25 डेड बॉडीज़ या रिमेन्स कह लें वो हमें मिली, हमने वो हॉस्पिटल शिफ्ट कर दिए और उस पर डीएनए एनालिसिस का काम शुरू कर दिया गया है. हमारी जो मेडिकल लीगल टीम है वो उस पर काम कर रही है.
The Deputy Commissioner also said it was difficult to give a precise update on the death toll due to the difficulties identification of the fire victims. The port city largest fire in more than a decade broke out late on Saturday and quickly spread through the sprawling Gulf Plaza shopping complex. At least 2 people died in Greece after torrential rain flooded streets, homes and businesses in Athens and other parts of the country. A woman died after being hit by a car that was carried away in flash floods in the southern Athens suburb of Glyfada.
Εδώ από ό,τι γνωρίζουμε, η γυναίκα βγήκε από το σπίτι της, μένει εδώ δίπλα, προσπάθησε να περάσει τον δρόμο, προφανώς ήθελε κάπου να πάει, μπορεί να έχει τα παιδιά της κάπου. Παρασύρθηκε από το νερό, είχε παρασυρθεί πιο μπροστά ένα αυτοκίνητο, χώθηκε κάτω από το αυτοκίνητο και η γυναίκα κατέληξε.
The southern suburb was one of the worst hit areas, with the floodwaters burying cars and entering homes. The rainstorm is expected to move to the eastern part of the country today. Police in south central Chile have arrested a man of suspicion of starting one of the recent wildfires that killed at least 21 people and razed entire neighborhoods. Security Minister Luis Cordero said the suspect used a liquid accelerant to start fires in a wheat field, with authorities seizing 5 liters of fuel from him. He was arrested in the town of Pucuenco in Aracunia region south of Biobío. The fires began simultaneously last Saturday in various parts of Biobío and Nabil regions about 500 kilometers south of the capital Santiago. Fanned by strong winds and high temperatures, the flames quickly ripped through the coastal towns of Penco, Lerquin and Punta di Para, leaving a blackened landscape of smoldering ruins. Around 1,000 homes went up in smoke, affecting around 7,500 people. Other fires were later reported further inland in the Biobío town of Florida. A Japanese court has sentenced a 45-year-old man to life imprisonment for fatally shooting former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in an incident that stunned the nation 3.5 years ago. Tetsuya Yamagami was arrested on the spot in July 2022 after fatally firing at Abe with a homemade gun while he was delivering a campaign speech in the western city of Nara. Residents were divided on the sentence, with 56-year-old Katsunari Ota calling it lenient, while others called for support for Yamagami. Although he was no longer Japan's leader at the time, Abe remained a powerful and binding force within the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. His absence has left a vacuum within the party, which has since seen 2 leadership races and, by extension, a revolving door of prime ministers. A South Korean court sentenced former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo to 23 years in jail for charges including engaging in a key action of insurrection concerning ex-President Yoon Suk-yeol's declaration of martial law in December 2024. The Seoul Central District Court said Han was found guilty because he was considered instrumental in setting up the outward appearance of a cabinet meeting that facilitated the martial law declaration. The court also found Han guilty of related charges such as perjury and creating a false official document. Han had denied wrongdoing for all charges except partial perjury. He was detained by the court immediately after the ruling. The ruling can be appealed, and the lower court judge said he expected the ruling to be appealed up to the Supreme Court. Next up in sports, ASEAN Para Games contingent off to golden start. The national contingent began its campaign at the ASEAN Para Games Thailand on a positive note by bagging 10 gold medals on the first full day of competition in Nakhon Ratchasima. The gold medals were contributed by Muhammad Yusof Hafizi Shaharuddin in the men's C1, C2 individual time trial para-cycling event, Krisana Sirujun in the men's individual EP para-fencing event, and Muhammad Rizal Hassan, who topped the men's TPB3 singles para-tempin bowling event. Goal success was further bolstered by Paramaswari Kashinathan in the women's 10-meter air rifle shooting event, Colorin Sijang in the women's discus throw, and Muhammad Nazmi Nasri, who won the men's long jump. In addition, Ivan Jovic Suen delivered gold in the men's 200 meters T44. Ahmad Zuaiman Shamsuddin emerged champion in the men's javelin throw. Muhammad Afiq Muhammad Ali Hanafiah clinched the men's 100 meter sprint T12 title, while Harun Lee Wong completed the country's gold haul in the men's discus throw F37. Selangor Red Giants SRG secured a spot in the upper bracket final of the 7th annual edition of the Mobile Legends Bang Bang World Championship after defeating Turkey's Aurora Gaming 3-2. In the upper bracket semi-final at Istora Senayan Indoor Tennis Stadium, SRG started on the back foot, losing the opening match. However, Michelangelo Bocado's squad bounced back in the second game with an impressive comeback to level the series. Aurora regained the lead by winning the third match, but SRG delivered another strong performance to tie 2-2 in the fourth match, forcing a decider. In the fifth and final game, SRG displayed calm and organised gameplay to clinch a 3-2 victory, advancing to the upper bracket final of the competition. SRG is set to face Aurora PH, who defeated Indonesia's Alter Ego in the other upper bracket semi-final. For the record, SRG's best performance in the championship game in the 6th edition, where they finished in third place. Moving on to football, Cristiano Ronaldo and Abdul Rahman Garib were on target to help Al Nassr secure a 2-1 win over lowly Damak in the Saudi Pro League. Garib was first on the ball when he found himself in the right place at the right time when a defender deflected a ball right to him. He quickly fired a low rocket in the bottom left corner to snag the early lead for the visitors 5 minutes into the match. Ronaldo's second half goal, the result of a nicely placed assist by João Felix, was the Portuguese star's 960th as he chases 1,000 career professional goals. Damak did not have an answer until the 68th minute when Jamal Harkas headed one in off a corner by Abdullah Al-Khatani. The win makes 2 in a row for Al Nassr after a string of 3 losses saw them slip down the table. They are still second in the standings, level on 37 points with Al Ahly, but 4 points behind league leaders Al Hilal, who have a game in hand. Crystal Palace striker Jean-Philippe Mateta has informed the club that he wants to leave. The France international has 56 goals in 184 games for the South London side and played in Palace's historic FA Cup triumph at Wembley in May last season. Eagles manager Oliver Glasner had opened the door to the 28-year-old's departure last week, though the press conference was overshadowed by the Austrian's own announcement that he would be leaving the club at the end of the season. Mateta has 18 months left on his current deal, and Palace have reportedly valued the star striker at £40 million. The Selhurst Park outfit remained without a win in their last 10 games, including a shock FA Cup defeat to Macclesfield. They will next host 6th place Chelsea on Sunday. In tennis, Australian Open third seed Alexander Zverev dropped a set on his way to victory in the second round of the tournament. The German overcame Frenchman Alexander Müller 6-3, 4-6, 6-3, 6-4 in Melbourne. Zverev is aiming to win his maiden major in this fortnight but was pushed by Müller during the match. The Frenchman was rock solid in the baseline exchanges throughout the first two sets, but Zverev upped his aggressions once the roof was closed midway through the third to record victory in the 3 hours and 3 minutes. Zverev, who faces Britain's Cameron Norrie in the third round, needed physio treatment for what appeared to be a lower leg injury. Meanwhile, home favourite Alex de Minaur was made to work to beat Hamad Mejovic of Serbia 6-7, 6-2, 6-2, 6-1. The 26-year-old was visibly stressed after losing the first set, but turned that tension into positive energy throughout the match, regularly lifting the crowd with his shot-making and raucous roars. He will take on France Tiafoe in the third round after the American came out on top of a tight encounter with Francisco Comensana. Takamoto Katsuta won the season-opening Monte Carlo Rally shakedown, leading a dominant Toyota in taking the top 5 spots. The Japanese driver posted a best time of 2 minutes and 31.8 seconds, edging out French teammate Sébastien Ogier, who is chasing a record 10 World Rally Championship by 1.3 seconds at his home rally. The sun was shining and the Toyota drivers and crews took advantage of the dry pavement, with Oliver Solberg placing third, 2.6 seconds off Katsuta as he starts his first full Rally 1 season. Alfred Nevin was fourth and Sami Pajari fifth to complete the Toyota sweep. Hyundai drivers Thierry Neuville and Adrien Fourmeux both struggled on the day, choosing to drive on studded tyres despite the dry conditions. And that wraps up World Today. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. I'm Sahih Samsudin. Salam Muslim Dani. Have a great day ahead.